If any of you ever interacted with the startup scene, the technology startup scene in the UK, you might have come across a guy called John Bradford. And I learned from him a very useful phrase, JFDI, Just Effing Do It. And today's episode is going to be very short because I've just been effing doing it. I figured no one, least of all me, wanted another episode of me screwing up the engine mounts and whinging about it. So, it's done. You saw in the last episode that I cut the sort of supporting bracket that goes off to the old engine mount off. That's now been cleaned up, welded back on. I also cut off the foot plate that goes onto the old engine mount down there. So let me just grab a torch. Also cut off the foot plate that you can, oh, other way. See down there, clean that up, welded that back on, and welded it on the front there. I've not welded both sides. I've done a serious bit of penetration, no pun intended, or no innuendo intended, following Danny Floyd's recommendation of pushing rather than pulling with the welder. Seems to have gone very deep in, so I'm very confident that those welds will hold for now. When I take it all apart again, I will obviously clean it up, paint it, and before all that, weld up the other side. But having done that, I've also now lined up the battery box and done the initial welds on the battery box mounts. I removed the old battery box mounts off both sides, cleaned up all the metal, and I've welded the new ones on there. I still need to take these clamps off and drill the holes and put in the riv nuts that will go through there. Same on the other side. I need to do the same at the back as well. Got the holes drilled there. One went a little skew-iff, so I've just opened it out a little bit. But yeah, riv nuts will go through there. And yeah, in the space of an hour and a half, I've recovered a lot of the time I'd lost by things going wrong. JFDI. Sometimes that's what it needs. There we go, got some riv nuts in. And that's some pretty good progress for today. So next episode, pull a few bits out again and start plumbing and wiring from the back forward. So we'll start with wiring up plumbing the heater. Not got wiring for the heater yet, but we'll plumb the heater and get the heater mounted and get a pump mounted in ideally. Or we may leave that, we'll see. I may decide to just get this running. I'm really desperate to get this back on the road. So we might do some basic plumbing for the heater, at least just so that those pipes aren't hanging around and leaking, and then worry about wiring and stuff for it later. That's probably the best bet. Need to plumb the vacuum lines for the brake booster. I'm going to get up and running without the with the sensor, but without the reservoir for now, I think. Just trim those lines up and get them plugged in. I'm going to order a new shorter high pressure line for the power steering pump, so that could go in. This one's obviously far too long now. The return line we can just trim down, but the high pressure line will need to order a shorter one with a banjo on one end at the bottom and I can't remember what size it was at the top, but I can look it up on Hydraulic Warehouse what I ordered before and just order a shorter one. It works very well. I'm going to take the inverter apart. I have a suspicion some metal shavings may have got in here. I wasn't careful enough to get that blocked up again. I was going to take it all apart, blow it all out with a high pressure line, vacuum it and give it a good clean, and then put it back together. 3D print a new mounting bracket for the amp seal here, and that's going to be a little bit close to the power steering pump. If I do it down here, maybe all right actually. If we bring our amp seal over, no, that's not our amp seal. Where's our amp seal? There we go. Oh, actually, do you know what? That's absolutely fine. It'll just be about there, or actually down there. but nonetheless, loads of room. So that I'll 3D print that, and yeah, then get the battery box in, and we need still the only holes we still need to cut. We need to cut some holes in the top of the battery box for the battery lines to come through into the high voltage junction box. We need to seal the two together. So we'll 3D print some covers for the nuts on the top. We'll probably JB weld the bolts in from the bottom, put some covers in on the nuts on the top so that they're completely insulated, RTV it to the lid, and then get our high voltage junction box laid out and get that all installed. Ultimately, I think the battery pack is going to have to be craned in because of where the rails go through to hold the batteries. So we'll get that made up and crane it in once we've drilled out the holes and got all that fixed. There's already going to be a bit of tidying up and repainting to do on the battery box, because I had to trim some bits down to make the front valance fit properly. I've welded these fractionally too far forward, but it just meant that I've got a bit of space at the back here for pipes and wires and stuff, and you know, the extra 5mm whatever doesn't make any difference in terms of weight distribution. So we may end up trimming, actually. We may end up making some adaptations to the front valance, maybe cutting this whole piece, cutting this whole piece out and trimming up the outside and making a really nice surround for the radiator, so that it just mounts more easily. There's no point keeping this if we can replace it. Maybe even just chop out the top bits, keep the bottom rail, and weld a new piece in, weld some angle in to mount our radiator too, to keep it all nice and tidy. And that obviously could do with the coat paint as well. I've trimmed off all of the old oil cooling parts that were down there. So good progress, pleased with that. Bit of a happier episode today, on a good end with good progress, things actually moving, me smiling and not ironically. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. If you do like this stuff, please do like and subscribe and share it around and drop us a comment as well. Thanks for watching.